Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. This video is going to be the first part for our playlist Create a Complete Game in Unity, and in which we are creating the PoliceChaser game. And in this video we are going to create the basic main menu UI for the game. So we have our main menu scene opened up. So as you can see, we have a empty Unity project in which I have created a couple of folders, the resources in which I added all the resources, the icons I have used the free ones from wherever I get. So this I got from different sources. All of them are free, so if you want to use it you can use them. And there's the scenes folder, the scripts folder, in which I have created the menu manager script for now, and the text mesh pro is already installed. So this is how our basic scene setup is going to look. So let's set up our camera first. We'll change the camera size to 10 and we'll set up its color. And for the color we are going to use the uh, dark blue, so it's going to be 216 and then 100 and then 22. So this color we are going to use, and afterwards let's set up our canvas. So instead of overlay, we'll set it to camera, set the camera to main camera, scale with screen size, and we'll set the width and height to 1080 by 1920, and we'll match width and height to 0.5. So that's our basic canvas. Let's create an image UI, and this is going to be for the title first, and let's create our title one. So its size is going to be 1024 by 128, and we'll position it at 640. So and afterwards let's position a little bit towards the left, so let's position negative 384. So that's where our first title is going to be, and after that we'll create a circle. So let's create an UI image circle, it's its parent, and similarly it's going to be 128 by 128. We'll position to from the right and make it 0. And for the sprite we'll use the circle sprite, and we should be able to get if we use this one. And let's duplicate this title one and we'll rename this to title 2. And this title 2 we are going to position positive 384, and mm, 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 where should we position it? A little bit lower, negative 256. So that's where our title is, and afterwards for the image we'll position it towards, nope, uh mhm, yep, for the image which is a circle we'll position it from the left 0. So that's where our title is going to be. Now let's set up its colors. So for the first color it's 193, 100 and 87. 87, so it's this bluish color, and next color is going to be our pink color, so 374, 76 and 94. 374, 76 and 94. So this one is the reddish type color, and after we have set up both our UI, we'll add text to it. So let's create a UI text mesh pro, and for the text we are just going to call text, and this one is going to say police. Let's have it aligned towards the right, and we'll change its width to fit completely. Let's position it towards the center and towards the right. So that's where it is for now, but we need to do a couple of things. So instead of let's set it to 80, and we need to increase the character 5, 15, 25, and let's make it bold. And for the text we are going to use our text mesh pro. It should be somewhere around here. So let's see where it is. Yeah, this one, and we'll create a font asset out of it. So not custom font. What did we create? No, we don't need this. Let's go into text mesh pro and we'll create it from here. So we're going to font asset and we'll select our evil empire, set the resolution, auto sizing, and then we'll just okay, it's not showing up. So additional windows are not showing up. So we are going to create a new font from the text mesh pro asset generator, and we are just going to save. So in our resources, it's going to be saved as an SDF, which is I should be able to show you around here. So where was our font? So this one is our font, and this one is our font asset, which is the SDF type. And for the text, we'll set our font to that SDF so it looks good enough, and let's increase the size. And similarly, we'll just copy component, and let's just paste this component here. So inside our title too, we'll set paste as child. Okay, so it's not working. So let's just duplicate, and inside our title too, we'll paste as the child 00, and we'll need to what is happening? Let's just delete it. So let's create a new text, and we'll just call it text, and here we'll call it chaser. We are going to position towards the left. It needs to be at the center. Need to change the size to fit the current, and character width to 25, and let's change its size to 80. And if we change the font to STF, we should be able to see it. So this text, it was 96, so let's also set this up at 96, and 96, both are 96, and let's make it bold. So that's our title screen is looking. So it's looking almost pretty much good, and we need to create the animation, but we'll do it afterwards. Now after having this our leaderboards, this two titles, we need to set up the buttons. So the first button we are going to use is let's create our leaderboards button. So let's create a UI and an image, and for the image we are going to call it as leaderboards. So I'm not going to set up any functionality for it, but we'll use it someday afterwards, and we'll position it 384 and -192, and anchor is already centered, and we'll set the image to be the 9 slice. So instead of looking like a square, it shows up as something better. And we'll add UI, and let's add an element to it, and size, it does not matter, but we'll set the sprite to be the leaderboards. Where is the leaderboards? I think it was the achievement sprite. Maybe I have a leaderboard sprite. I don't know. Yep, it's the achievement sprite. So we are going to set this up to the achievement sprites, and to show it up, we need to set the color to black. Now, after having our leaderboards, the next one we are going to have is the settings. So let's duplicate this leaderboards, and rename it to settings, and it's going to be below our leaderboard button. And for our leaderboard, it should have a button. So let's add a button component, and we are going to set it to none. And uh, for our settings, it's positioned at 384 and 0. And color hide animation sender, we need to set the image to the settings image. So for the image, we should be have settings outline image. So that is for the settings. Now after our settings, there's a button for the ads component. So let's duplicate the settings first, and we'll call it ads. And settings also has a button component. If we didn't add it, we need to add it. And for now, we'll set it to none. Now inside our ads, let's position it first a little bit higher, and it's going to be a little bit larger. So instead of 128, it's going to be around 256 and 164. So that's how our ads is going to look. And for the image, let's just use the 9 sliced image. And let's set up the color to white. And for the ads, we are going to set the color to 3477694. So maybe it's this one. Nope, it's different. So let's do 34776 and 94. So it's a little bit of pinkish type color. And for this image, we are going to set its width to the full size, which is the 256. Let's set it to 256, and we'll set its height to 10, and we'll rotate in the Z by 45 degrees or 30. 30 should be more than enough. And if we decrease this size, so let's decrease. And before that, we'll add a text component to it. So let's add a UI text, and it's not going to be used anywhere, so we'll just call it text. Let's make it bold, increase the size to 128. Position it to the center. Let's have it, okay, still too large. Let's subtract 16. It's already bold. And if we change our font to this should look like it's the button component. And similarly, we'll also add a button component to it. Now let's move our title a little bit towards upwards. So for the position Y, let's add 64. So this one looks better. Now we have our the right three buttons. Now let's add the help button and the social buttons. So for the help button, let's duplicate the settings button because it's going to be positioned around similar, and we'll set it around here, and the size is going to be similar. We'll just call it help. And it also needs to have a button script, but inside the image we are going to add the question mark that it should be, yep, the help circle image. And for the help image, instead of 9 sliced, we are going to use the circle image. Now after having our help, there should be for the two social media icons. So let's duplicate our help, and this one we are going to call the Facebook. And for the image, it's going to be circle, but for the color, we are going to use 255 92 and 58. So this one's for the Facebook. Similarly, for the image, we are going to use the Facebook image. We'll set the color to white so it doesn't look ugly, and the position is going to be set to around 384 higher. Let's set it to 0 first, and we'll position it at 384. And after having a Facebook image, we'll duplicate the Facebook and rename it to Instagram. And similarly, we'll subtract -192, and let's change the color. So for the color, we are going to use our pink color, which is, I think we set it up here. And for the image, we are going to use the Instagram logo, which should be around here. So that's how it's looking for now. Now, after having our both images, uh, let's create the two buttons, the play and the store button. So let's create our play button first. So for the play button, we'll create an image first and we'll call it play, and it's going to be a default square image. So for the width, let's make it 128 by 192, and we are going to position at -160 and -512. Color, let's set the color as a pink color, which we are already using, and let's add another image to this image. So it's going to be our mm, let's just set it up as an image. It's play image, and the size we are going to use 192 by 192. And afterwards, this two image, we are going to add two images. So the first image is going to be the circle left. It's positioned from the left side. Let's set its size to 0, and instead of display, we are going to use the circle sprite. So if we use the circle, we should be able to see the circle. Let's select this color so it looks good, and if we duplicate this circle left and change it to circle right, and we just need to change the anchor and the position, so it should be around the center, and we need to move our play image to the bottom so it shows up on top of both the circles. And we need to add a button component to the yep, we need to add the button component. It's going to be somewhat different, but we'll do something about it later. Now we have our button. We'll need to underline is not defined. So let's add it in the projects, not the preferences. In the project settings, we need to uh, set the text mesh pro warnings to off. So if we go inside our edit and then project settings, inside the text mesh pro and settings, will disable warnings. So it should be at the start, material dynamic font settings. Where was it? Disable warnings is set to on, so it should not show any errors. So now it is fixed. And after we have created our play button, let's also create the last store. Yep, the store button. So we'll create another image. So instead of image, let's just create a UI, and we'll add a button. So it's going to add, and we'll call it store, and let's delete its text, and we are going to position it to towards our play button. So it was positioned at -512. So let's set the pause y to -5 and 2. And the pause x we are going to use 192. And similarly, we'll increase the width and height to 192 by 192. And in the sprite, we are going to use the circle sprite. And for the color, I don't think, yep, let's just set it up as a pink color. Where's our store? So it is a pink color. Let's set the color tint to none. It's not going to have anything else but just an image. And we'll set this image to 192 by 192. Color is already white. We'll use the store image and we need to decrease the size. It's still larger, 128 by 128. Let's do we need to 32? So now it looks better. So this is our basic UI. Now, after creating this UI, there are going to be couple more we'll need to create. So the first one is going to be the settings. When we open the settings, it should show our settings. And the next one is for our store. For the store, we are just going to create just an empty, and we'll call it store open. And inside our store open, we'll add the store prefab. And similarly, let's duplicate the store open twice, and the first one is going to be the help open, and the next one is going to be the settings open. So this UI are going to be shown whenever we click on any of the buttons. So let's create our help open first. So if we it is already shown, let's hide our store open and the settings open. So inside our help open, it's going to show the details of how the game is played. So the first thing we are going to attach is a background. So where was I? In the Unity editor? So inside our help open, let's create an image and we'll call it BG. And for this image, we'll increase the size a little bit and change the sprite to 9 sliced. So that's how our background is looking for now. Now inside his background, uh, with BG, we are going to have a couple more buttons. So the first button is going to be the help button. So I think we can duplicate the help, position it to the help open, and let's rescale. No need to rescale. Let's just position it 416 and 592. So it's going to show up around here. And similarly, we are going to also create a close button. So it's similar to the help, and we'll just rename it to help. We'll remove the button component because it doesn't need it, and we'll duplicate the help and we'll call it close. And for the position, we are going to use the -416 and 592. 384608. 384608. Image is going to be the circle, and for the this image we are going to use the cross image. So it's going to be for the cross. So we have both our buttons and our backgrounds. Now inside our background we are going to show the car and all the icons of how the game is going to be played. So let's create the three backgrounds. So let's create a UI, an image, and we are going to call bg, not question mark, bg1, and for uh, the size we are going to use 480 by 480. Let's set this color to black for now, and we'll position it from the top, negative 256 and positive 256, and instead of sprite we are going to use the 9 sliced. So that should look almost pretty much better. Now next one is for the bg2. Instead of negative 256 we are going to use the positive 256, and I forgot about its color. I don't know how were they, but it doesn't matter. And instead of bg2 we'll call it bg3, and similarly width, we'll multiply the width by 2, position it at 0, and for the y, instead of positive 256, if we use negative 256 we should be able to see it good enough. And if we do, we need to, no, and it's a little bit towards the bottom side, but doesn't matter. Now let's set it up this bg color. So this colors are going to be similar to our whatever the background screen color is, and this colors, let's set it up to pink. Looks a little bit bad. Let's set it up as a blue color. Now that's how our background is going to look. Now in the first background we are going to let's set a UI text smash pro, and one, it's just going to show the first, negative 192, positive 192, width 128 by 128, and instead of the text mesh pro it needs to have an image component, and for the image we are going to use the circle image, and it's already looking almost good enough. Let's set it up the colors. Doesn't look much better. Let's just white is also looking bad enough. Yep, let's set it up as this bluish color. Now inside our this one we are going to add the text. Let's just call it text, and the text is just going to be one. Let's position towards the center, size fit, and instead of 64, if we make it bold and set the size to somewhat like this, and 80, so it should look good enough. Now we can duplicate this and position it to the bg2, rename it to 2, and if we change its position, it's going to be here 192 by 192, and if you change the text to 2 it should show what that is. Now again, if we duplicate this to position it to 3, it's going to be the third text, and this one's position, it's going to be negative 448, and for the y position let's set it up as 0 for now, and we need to move in the positive by 192, so let's add 192, and similarly we'll rename it to 3 because it's the third, and we need to press enter, and afterwards we'll set it to 3. So there's wherever all the open text images are there. Now inside our background one we are going to show the cars, but let's set up all our car sprites whichever we can find. There should be a 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. We'll set the pixels per unit to 128 because we are going to use it afterwards. And here, instead of 1, we are going to add an image, and this one is for the car image, and we'll use the default car. And let's set up its size to 256 by 256, and let's rotate it a little bit in the X. So for the first one, we'll add a tap to this side. So again, it's going to be an image. So for the BG one, we'll add an image, and we are just going to call it tap. And for the tap, it's going to be at negative 128, and for the pause y, negative 128. Hmm, And let's increase the size to 128 by 128. And for the image, there should be an tap image, and scale, it's already showing better. Do we need to change the scale? Yep, let's change its scale. Now, if we duplicate both this and position to a BG2, let's just rename it to car. And for the size, we need to set 64, negative 64 and 32, and instead of positive 45. And similarly for the tab, let's position it at 00, rescale to 1. And for the position X, we are going to use 128. And for the position Y, we are going to use negative 128. So it should be more than good enough. And after creating this UI, looks like the whole series is going to be around 10 to 15 hours. Doesn't matter. So instead, in our third text, we are going to show two cars, and we are going to show like or if those car collides, does not collide, but if it passes through, then the revenge mode is activated. So let's first create our first car. So let's create an UI image, and this one we are going to call car1, and let's set up its size to 256 by 256. And for the image, we'll use the car image, and let's set its position to negative 320. So this is the car, and now if this car collides with another car, which is we are going to make car 2, and this car 2 is going to be the police car, which should be at the last one. So the police car is at negative 64 and 128, and let's set it to 0, minus 90. So if both of this car collides, then the miss condition is going to activate. So for that, we are going to use a text mesh pro element, and we'll just call it text1, and this one is going to say near miss is equals to boost. Let's make it bold. Let's set the font size to 48. Increase the 928 by 128, and the position we are going to use is negative 48. And if we align it towards the right, we should be able to see it better. Now if we duplicate this text one and rename it to text2, let's set the position y to negative 144. And for the text, we are going to call 3 times near miss, and this one is going to be the revenge mode. So that's for our help, and whenever we click the help icon, it's going to show this screen. And let's go inside settings now. Now for the settings, the first thing we'll need is a background. So let's create a background. Let's just call it BG. Let's show it and position it 0, 0. Let's set up its size 896 by 896. Image via, let's use something better. So let's show all and use the 9 sliced image. And 25552 5866. And similarly, we'll need to attach a grid layout group and set the padding to 32, cell size to 256 by 240. Yep, and the spacing to 32. Now, any of the elements we attach inside it, it's going to be shown. It should be good enough. So let's set it to 56, 448. Now inside our BG, we are going to attach, let's create the close. So let's get it up from our help open. So let's duplicate the close and we'll position it to the settings open. And instead of, we'll use the positive, let's change it to 0 plus 256. So that's where our close is. And we'll set it to 0. So it should be more than good enough. So now inside our BG, let's create a UI image, and the first image we are going to use for the music, and for the sprite we'll use a 9 sliced, and it's already pretty much 256 plus 32 plus 32. So this one looks good enough. And for the close, we'll position at 256 minus 32 minus 32. So that's our first component. Now if we duplicate this music, next one is for the effects. And the last component is for the vibrate. Now inside all of this, let's create an image. And for the image, the first one we are going to use our music. So this one is the black one, and we need to increase the size to 256 by 256, 240 by 240. Let's decrease 32 again, 240 by 240. And similarly for the second image, we'll use the music effect sprite. So it should be which yep, the sound. And for it's still pretty much large, so let's decrease, let's just set to 128 by 128. Yep, it looks better now. And for the last image, it is the vibrate, and for the vibrate I think we have, yep, shake, 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 shake. So that should wait for our settings open. And no more UI are needed. Now let's create an empty. And this one's for the main menu manager. And next we'll have two more, but we'll create it afterwards. Now let's create our animations first. So if we hit play, there should be nothing right now, but all of our buttons are going to be need the animations. So whichever button we'll see, title one, not title two, but all of these buttons. So the first, let's create our title animation. So inside our folder, let's add the title, and inside our title, let's create an animator controller, and we'll call it title under slash one. Duplicate this animator controller and we'll call title under slash two. Now the animator window should be opened up, and we'll need an animation window. So I think guys should be able to see both the windows. So if it opens up at a new window, I can't record it. So if any of you have problems setting up the UI, you can almost refer to as how we are going to do it. Now inside our title 1 and title 2, we'll add an animator controller, and let's set up our title 1 first. So we'll use the title 1, and we already selected the title 1. We'll created a new clip, and it's going to be inside the title, and it's going to be idle but for the first one. And let's add a property, and for the text, and we'll use a rect transform anchored position, we'll add to it. And let's set the sample size to 30. And now if we go inside our scene, if we select our title one, okay, so if we select our idle one, we have our anchored position. Now it's pretty much fixed, so let's see what our anchored position is. So it is 0, but we'll set it to negative 500, so it won't show. But if we click here, why is idle one? Let's remove properties. We need to click in the title, and let's now add property, and then we need to add the rect transforms anchored position property, but it's still not showing up. Negative 5 and 2, and this one is 0. So no, it's not getting fixed. Yeah, it's now. So if we select the title and if we play the animation, it should show, but still we are setting up the property inside. So if we select our idle animation, it's not showing, but if we select the title one, and inside our title one, we need to select the idle animation. Okay, so now it's showing. And let's set up the loop time is set to off, and for the animation, the play on awake, it's the idle animation, it's going to play on awake, but instead of negative 5 and 2, let's make it negative 768, so it's around almost good enough. And for the, it should be done in half a second. And similarly, how we created it for the title one, we'll create animator for the title 2, and we don't have any scripts. If we go inside our title 2, we don't have any scripts. Now let's create a script, and we'll call it idle 2, and we have selected it. So if we add the property anchored position, we should be able to see it. Let's set the sample rate to 30. We need to select the idle 2. Doesn't matter. Let's set it to positive 768, and whatever is at the end will go inside the 15th frame, and we'll set it to 0. Delete that frame. So it's set to 0. Now if we select the title too and if we play the animation, it should move from the right. Now we only need to set up the loop time to off, and it's just going to show us one more time. So if we play the scene, both the text should come from the left and the right, and 0.5 seconds. Now we have both these animations. Now let's create the UI open animation. So let's create a folder and we'll call it UI open, and similarly we'll create an animator here, and it's going to be Animator Controller, and it's going to UI open. For close we are not going to use anything, because whenever you close the game, object just sets active to false. And it's going to be for the help open, we are going to use an animator. And yep, we'll use the scale, because if we just use the size it will be difficult. Now if we create an animation, let's just call it, why this always messes up, let's delete this, and let's go to UI open, delete the whatever its name was. We have the UI open and help open. We need to create a new animation, IDLE, not ILDE. Now inside the property, we are going to use the rect transform scale property, and we'll just at the start we'll just set the scale to 0, 0, 0, and let's set the sample size to 30, and we need to bring this down to around 1/3 of a second, and then we'll set it to 1, 1, 1. So this one, let's set it to 0, 0, 0. So now it's going to show as you want, loop time to off where it is, and whenever the help screen shows up, it's going to show this animation UI and slash open. Now there's the last animation we are going to use, and it's going to be just the resize animation. And inside our resize animation, let's create an animator controller and we'll call it resize. And okay, we are already inside the resize, create submachine state, but we don't have our animation selected. So to select the animation, we'll need to attach resize to any one of these. So for the leaderboards till the scroll, we'll need to attach an animator component, and for the animator we'll use the resize component. Now let's create another script. So UI open as the idle animation, title as the title animation. So the first animation is the idle. It's not going to do anything, but we'll need to create one more. So we'll rename it to click. Let's add a property, and inside this property we are going to use a rect transform size delta property, not size delta. Why did I use size delta? Scale. So rect transforms scale property, and inside our scale it's going to be pretty short animation, so let's bring it down to around 10 frames, and let's set it to 30 frames. So whenever it's at the center, we'll set it to 0.5. So 10 frames, and at the fifth frame we are going to set it at 0.5, and whenever we click it, it's going to play this animation. So we are going to play the animation whenever we click it, so we'll need to create a script for it. So let's create a script, and we'll create it in the resize, and we'll just call it play click animation. And I think that should be it for all the animations. So we'll close all of our animation tabs, and for now we have all the animation components attached correctly. So let's hit play and see. Yep, everything's working correctly. Now whenever you click, we should be able to see the animations. It's already 50 minutes. Yep, 10 hours. 10 hours it's going to be. Maybe more than that, because it took me around a month to create this game, and it's almost 2000 to 3000 lines of code and so much of UI, because I'm covering the whole mobile part, and that's only I've done till now. And after that I'm going to add the this leaderboards or achievements, whatever you call it, is just the leaderboards. Yep, this one's the leaderboards, next one's for the achievements. So after adding the achievements, it's going to be another 500 lines or so. So where were we? We had added all our animations. Now we need to add the resize clip to it. So let's add the play click animation clip, and inside our play click animation clip, we'll just get the animator component and we'll play the click animation. So it's going to be simple enough. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and instead of our menu manager, we'll go inside the resize play click animation, and inside the awake, we don't need to cache it, we are going to do it only once. So private animator 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 is equals to get component animator. And next, we need to get the button component. So bu to add the button, we'll need to add the UI. Let's just do unity engine dot UI dot button, and we'll call it button is equals to get component mm, 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 unity engine dot UI dot button, and afterwards we'll do button dot on click, and on click will on click dot add listener, and we are going to add this listener. So we'll do animator dot play, and we are going to play, instead of string state name, we are going to play the click animation, and the layer -1, and the normalized time we are going to start from 0. So whenever we click, we are going to play the click animation, and we are already attached it, so it should be simple enough. So let's go inside Unity, and whenever you click any of these buttons, so everything has button component attached, so it should show us the loop time we need to set to off. Yep. So let's go into a resize animation, and the click animation, the loop time should be set to off. And now if we hit play, we should be able to see the effect. So whenever you click, we are going to see this effect. And now the next thing we're going to do is adding all the functions. So help is going to just show the help option, play is going to open the gameplay scene, store is going to open our store open scene, and rest of it. Let me take a little bit of break, and afterwards we'll start creating the main menu managers, and we should be finished our main menu UI by then. So I'm back, and let's go inside the menu manager and we'll start creating all our functions for the menu. So if we go inside menu manager, there's the start and the update function. We are not going to need any of this, but let's create a region and we'll just call it variables and we'll end the region. And inside of variables, let's see what do we need to create first. So I'm going to be inside my menu library or the code library, and I'll just where is my, yep, here it is. So we'll need the collections and collection generic, we'll remove it. So we are going to use the unity engine.ui and text mesh pro, yeah, don't know, won't be needed. So let's create a serialized field, and first one's for the game object which we are going to show though. So open help panel, and next should be for the settings panel, and the store panel, and the last one is the car prefab, which we are going to spawn different cars for it. And let's do serialized field private image, and this one's for the settings music settings sound, and the last one's for the settings shake, and that should be it. And let's create a region, and this one's for the start methods. So inside the awake, we'll set the all to false, open false, settings panel dot set active to false, and store panel dot set active to false. And then we'll spawn and set cars, which we are going to void spawn car. Spawn and set cars, and we'll need to create this function private, and inside our spawn and set cars we are just going to call the function spawn car 16 times. So we'll spawn the cars later, and we'll end the region hashtag and region. Now that were our variables, the start methods. Now we need to create our button functions. So this region is going to be for the button functions, and start methods, let's add an underscore to it. So for the button functions, let's first go for the open Facebook, and here I'm going to use my ID, but you can use whatever ID you want, maybe your own or any application dot open URL, uh, any code you have written or any page you have created for your game. So I'm going to get my ID. So it is facebook.com/zrfgd, and similarly after open Facebook we'll create the open Instagram, and here we are going to use our Instagram ID. Both are almost similar, just The starting is different. And let's add the end region first. After open Instagram, next one's going to be the public void open help panel. And here we'll just set open help panel dot set active to true and public void close help panel. Am I recording it? Yes. So in the close help panel, similarly, we'll just set the open help panel to false. And after we are showing our close and the open help, we are going to show the store. So public void open store panel, and here we'll set open store, not open store panel dot set active to true, and copy it, paste. Instead of open, we'll use the close. Instead of true, we are going to set to false. Now, after you open and store, uh, first next one is going to be the public void play game. So here we'll just unity engine dot scene manager dot scene load scene gameplay. And if the name is correct, it should not have any problems. I think I renamed the play as small. No, we haven't even created that scene. So we'll create that scene afterwards. So after we have our play game, the last one is for the settings. So for the settings, we are going to set its images, and whenever we click on any of its images, we are going to change the value of that image. So it's going to be lighter or darker if we are clicking that particular setting. So let's go create the open settings first. So it's going to be public void open settings, and inside our open settings, we'll set the settings panel dot set active to true, and after that we will, what do we need to do? Switch. Let's create the set. So hashtag region helper functions, and the first helper function we are going to create is set all our settings. So void set settings image or button, whatever you call it as, and here we are going to pass the image, and let's call it current image, and the string the key. And let's first get the result. So in result, if player prefs dot has key, and we'll pass the key. If it has the key, then we'll set the result to be the player prefs dot get int, and we'll get the key. Else we'll set the result to be 1. 1 is for true, and we'll set the player prefs dot set int, and here we'll pass the key, and the value we are going to pass is the result, and the current image dot color is going to be result is 1. Then we are going to show the white color dot white, as will show the gray color. And similar, so set settings button, and similarly instead of set settings we'll use the switch settings button, And inside our switch settings button, before setting up the result, we'll set the result to be. If result is 1, then we'll set it to 0, else we'll set it to 1. So both are similar. Now let's create the open settings. And we'll also need to create a function to store the keys. So to store all of the keys, I have created a constants function. Constants and region, hashtag and region. So for the keys, let me create a new script, and we are going to store our constant script inside of it, c hash script, and we are going to call it as constants, and I'm going to copy the constants script because whatever we are going to use are all the constants we'll need inside the game. So it is constants. So these are the constants. Let's delete everything and use. Why is it showing yellow? So these are all the constants we are going to use, and if we can access it from the namespace constants.settings, and if we use settings music, we'll get the respective strings and we'll store it inside our player prefs. Now let's go inside our menu manager, and whenever we open the settings, we need to set the settings button. And first let's set the settings music to constants dot settings dot music, and we'll copy 2 times, and the next one's for the sound, and instead of settings music we'll use settings sound, and this one's for the settings shake, and setting music we'll use the setting shake. And let's create a function. So the first one is going to be the public void switch music, and inside our switch music, or click switch music, whenever you click on it, we'll use the switch settings button, and we'll use the settings music, and the key we are going to pass is constants dot settings dot music. And similarly, we'll copy this function 2 times, and instead of switch music we'll use the switch sound, and the last one's for the switch shake, and here instead of settings music we'll use the sound. So that should do for the settings. Now I don't think any more functions should be remaining, so let's set it up. So let's go inside Unity, and for all of these functions we'll attach the on click, and we'll attach the main menu manager, and each of these functions are going to be different. So for now it does not have anything, but for the settings it is going to be the open settings, not transform. Did we attach the main? No, we didn't attach. So let's attach the main menu manager, just the menu manager, and let's have the help open, settings open. So first one is the help open, next one is the settings open, Store open, car prefab, we are not going to use it, but inside our settings open, we are going to have the music, the effect, and the vibrate. Now let's set up the settings first. So inside the menu manager, we are going to use the open settings, and let's set up for the Facebook, open Facebook, Instagram, open Instagram, and where it is open Facebook, Instagram, and play. We are going to use the play game function, which is going to open the gameplay scene. And for the help, we are going to use the open help panel. Now inside our help or the open help panel, for the close, we'll need to attach a button component and set up the click function. So let's use the main menu manager, and we'll attach the close help panel. So it should show and close our help panel. As we are not done settings, it's opening, but uh, we have not attached the close, and we attached the play. Now we'll need to attach it for the store. So for the store, we are going to use the open store, and once it is open, it's not going to mm, let's just had no function for now. We'll create it afterwards. Now inside our BG, for the music, the effect, and the vibrate, we'll need to attach a button component, and let's set the color tint to none, and we need to add the main menu manager dot button effect and the vibrate. We attach the button component, and we'll need to add the main menu manager. And inside the main menu manager, the first one is going to be for the click switch music. The second one is the click switch sound, and the vibrate is for the click switch vibrate shake. Now let's play and let's see if there are any errors. So Facebook is going to get fraud to my Facebook page. Similarly, Instagram is going to get to my Instagram page. And if we click open, this open panel shows up, and if we close, it hides settings. Settings panel is not showing up because I don't know. Open. So there is a problem with the settings. Open settings. Main menu manager, settings open. And let's see what problem with the settings. Okay, I just used the different settings panel dot set active to true. Now everything should be working correctly, and we need to create a new scene. So let's create a new scene. We'll just save it as the gameplay scene, so we can switch to that scene. And let's go inside our main menu scene. So if we go inside our main menu scene and hit play, the help option is working, and it's pretty much loud. Now if we click any of this, you can see that the value is changing in the player prefs, and whenever we click it again, we should be able to see it. Now the close option was not set up, so we'll attach a button to the close component, and we'll add the close settings button to it. Not now. For the close, we'll add the menu manager, and we'll use the close open settings. Did we not create? Yep, we did not create it. So let's create a public void close settings, and inside our close settings, we are just going to do settings panel dot set active to false, and it should be good to go. Now before that, our help panel was showing almost too much small, so let's resize our UI open. So inside our idle for the scale, it was 20. Let's set it to 6 frames. And we'll move it at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, sample size to 30. Yep, 6 frames long. So now if we click any of it, it should show pretty much good enough. So settings, as you can see, our settings are close. We again didn't attach it. So let's click the close settings, and now the close setting should work. And we have our settings saved up. So everything's working perfectly fine. We are able to see, and we need to add it to the build. So we need to go inside our scenes and add the gameplay scene to the build. So build settings, add open scene. So it should add the gameplay scene, go inside the main menu scene, and we need to start. Everything's working. We'll just click play, and there is our gameplay scene opened up. So already the UI was pretty much large, and I thought I should be able to do it around 20 to 30 minutes, but it's going to be long enough. So if you are watching and if you want to create the whole game, uh, thank you for guys for watching, and see you guys in the next video in which we are going to create the gameplay UI. Thank you guys for watching.